Hello, beautiful beings. It's Alison here, Archetypal website designer. Now, I just wanted to jump in to let you actually know how and why I do website design the way that I do. Now, as you may have heard, I am an archetypal website designer. Now, I will go into the genesis of how this came about and the synthesis of this kind of blueprint and way of process, I guess, that I do website design, which is very different. It's very I've never seen anyone else do it, to be perfectly honest with you. So my background, I've worked corporate for quite some time. I've worked in corporate and hospitality, so in events, bars, clubs, nightclubs, all of the kind of shabam, restaurants, 5-star, blah, 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 blah. At the same time, I've also worked in customer service and insurance, telcos, and also for the last kind of 10 to 12 years worked in major metropolitan public health, working in hospitals and stuff like that, and administration. During that kind of professional experience, I've been exposed to a lot of different platforms, a lot of different technology, a lot of different ways of doing business, and a lot of, I guess, being behind kind of the curtain, so to speak, in business, working in executive offices and stuff like that. So I had a really interesting insight into how business is run, not only from government agencies, but also from corporates and stuff. So it's quite vast. Through that was basically my love for technology came, especially in one particular job that I had when I was working in telco, and I was doing relocation. So I was basically doing, move house, and basically I relocated all of your services from one house to the other. I told you what services were available, XYZ, how you could get it, all the bundles and stuff like that. And in this particular organization, there was an old kind of DOS system that they used to use. This isn't that long ago too, by the way, people. It's probably only about 13 years ago. Okay, maybe it's a while. They were using kind of like a DOS system as well as like a normal kind of updated Windows system. And so you had to figure out how to talk between these two systems. And they didn't, because they didn't like each other, so to speak. And that's when I understood the value, I guess, of programming. But also I started to really understand how computers take input and give you output. So I learned really early on in that journey what I needed to do and a particular sequence that I needed to do in order to get the outcome that I desired. So it taught me a lot about logic. It also taught me a lot about sequencing and processing. How if you miss this, that doesn't necessarily matter, but if you do miss this, then it's a critical thing and the whole thing will fall apart, i.e. you won't get your services, kind of turned on at the next location. So this instilled my love of technology, but it actually happened really, really early on, as in, I think I was 7. So when I was 7, I was in primary school, and it must have been a bit older actually. So I moved up from like the first school to the second school, and we just got computers. And I remember it was this really beautiful orange Apple IIe computer with a dot matrix printer. Now, if you don't know what they are, I will go have a look, go Google them. They are amazing, and they were literally a portal into another world. So I used to write a lot when I was a child, and I still do now. I've got stories everywhere at home at my mum and dad's house. And one of the things that I loved about technology is that I could translate my thoughts, my stories, my imagination into the written word, and I could print it out and it could become form. I still have some of those stories that I've written back when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. I was infatuated with computers. And then I started gaming, basically the Sega and kind of like Alex and stuff like that. And then I moved into like no, I wouldn't say real gaming, but like gaming with computers and PCs and stuff like that, and doing like World of Warcraft online. And I've always had this kind of love for technology. Now, as I kind of transitioned out of my corporate career and I became a mother, I was a stay-at-home mum. And so I really wanted to figure out something that I could do so that I basically wouldn't lose my goddamn mind. Looking after a real little baby that you have no manual for, you don't know what's going. And I needed something to kind of, in one way, help me to keep my intellect churning. And so I started to design websites, and that's essentially what I was doing. And I was actually looking at doing programming for a little while. But yeah, I ended up doing websites. Now, I've done a lot of different websites and a lot of different platforms, WordPress. My very first website was on Squarespace, and I kind of liked it, but I didn't like the fact that you had to pay a monthly fee. I thought that was just a bit rough. I didn't like the fact that every add-on that you wanted, you had to pay more and more money for it. And I was just like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. So I turned off Squarespace and went to WordPress. And I loved WordPress. It was a very steep learning curve right at the start. But what I do is I actually have WordPress as kind of like the platform, the foundation. And then I use a theme, which is pretty basic. It's called Astra. And I also have Elementor as a page building plugin. And so that's kind of how I built websites. And I was starting doing that for a little while. Now, parallel to my corporate career, I actually was also studying at a medicine women's school for shamanic and esoteric studies. And so I started out doing a 6-month program, which is called Rite of the Six Moons, which is like a purification program. And then after that, I did a healer's apprenticeship, which was a 12-month program, working with New Zealand First Light flower essences and plants. And then after that, I was like, man, this is the bee's knees. So I did a 2-year shamanic apprenticeship. So all up, I kind of studied for 3.5 years. I'm still studying. I still continue to study with them after that kind of 3.5 years. So I became a shamanic practitioner. This kind of keyed into some of the stuff that I was doing as a kid and was aware of as a child, like fairies, the other realm, the unseen realm, and stuff like that, ghosts, the works. And so I then was like, I really love this kind of way that it makes sense of the world for me. I love the way that it's very kind of intimate, but at the same time, it encompasses a lot of different things and a lot of different kind of ethos and cosmos and stuff. And so I also did a creativity program. So I trained as an intentional creativity teacher, and then I did intuition training, and then I did something else. So there, parallel to my corporate career, there has essentially been this kind of spiritual seeker, mystic training that's been running parallel to it. When I was doing website design, I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool and I like it and it's okay. And I started to experiment with different things because, as I know, energy is everything. I was like, how can I do this so that it's uniquely me? And then basically the two kind of spheres came together and there was this massive synthesis that occurred. Now, the synthesis is basically combining my kind of shamanic intuition, intentionality, training with technology, with the understanding, the overarching understanding that energy is everything. And so what I did is I actually created this process, which was essentially, I saw the internet and I looked at it and I went, you seem very masculine in principle to me, like that kind of coding, the way that it was, intentionality behind it, the way that it's structured, some of the things that are occurring on it. I was like, it feels very masculine, energetic to me. And so I was like, that's really interesting. It seems unbalanced. And I was just like, I wonder how I could bring harmony into that ecosystem. And so I was like, oh shit. In my intuition training, I still do, work with a lot of archetypes, feminine archetypes in particular. And so I was just like, what if I created a website, knowing that energy is everything, with a collaboration or a communication or a dialogue with a feminine archetype or a feminine goddess? And that would basically infuse the build that I was doing and basically like embed it into this build, and then it'll be sent out into the world. I was like, that seems like it would make sense. And so that's essentially what I started doing, is I started creating websites. So at the very start, when we've had our conversation and we figure out that we want to work together and stuff like that, like then I kind of get into creation channel mode. And so the very first thing that happens is obviously you kind of give me all of your stuff and your intention and stuff like that. We work with it, your branding, your colors, your fonts and stuff. And then I go to a particular oracle deck that I have, and it is Megan Waterson. Where are we? the Divine Feminine Oracle deck, because I had it and I love it and it's amazing. And I love her work and I love her writing. And so at the very start of the build, I go and essentially a card is chosen for that particular build, and it could be anyone. Many of them I don't actually know. And so every time I work on that website or, you know, kind of interact with it, I am essentially working with this archetypal feminine energy, and I am building it into energetically and resonating with it and creating coherence and harmony into the website build, knowing that energy is everything and intentionality is everything as well. And so that is actually how I build websites. So it very much links into also this kind of slow MoFlow entrepreneur experiment that I'm doing at the moment, where literally the information or the imagination, the intuition from this divine feminine archetype is being channeled through, as well as the information or the energy from their business owner, their business, their offers, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's basically this massive energetic potentiality soup, I guess it's the best way of describing it, that is there. And then this feminine archetype is helping me to choose the way that it's designed, the way where the text goes, the way that the colors are, the way that the images are held out. And so it is very much a channeled, I guess, experience where I am using the facets and the face of this particular archetype and then infusing it in the build. And then when the build is released or kind of like launched, it goes out into the world and then starts to, by the nature of interaction and impact with other people, it starts to create this harmony within the actual ecosystem of the internet. So that is archetypal website design, and that is what I do. It is very different from what I understand. And just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, I am doing a build at the moment. And this is the feminine kind of archetype that's come through, which is Matching Labron, which is the Diamond Heart Daikini. Now, she is in the Buddhist tradition, from what I understand about doing research and stuff about her. And she was pretty amazing. It's really interesting because I'm going like this, like you're going to know what I'm talking about. But she talks very much about cutting out, it's like cutting out all of the ego kind of nature of the individual, and the beauty kind of gets left behind. So it's basically about ego and beliefs, which is really, really fascinating. And so I've been working with her in a particular build that I'm doing at the moment. And I guess in a way, it's almost like an energetic signature. So her energetic signature is all over this website because she is helping me to choose certain things and placements and all of this kind of stuff. And you can't see it at the moment, but she generally, you know, when I work with them, she sits just to the right of my screen, and like it's essentially a dialogue that's occurring at the moment. And so we are communing with each other, and we're opening up a dialogue and you know, having conversation. The really interesting thing, sorry, what the hoodly is that? That's my phone, won't be a moment. The really interesting thing is that I'm just going to pause it and we'll be back, otherwise it'll drive me insane. Won't be. Okay, I'm back. So essentially what that does is it sets up this kind of energetic signature. And so her energetic signature, when the site is launched, will be released out into the internet. And as we all know, like there's snakes, you know, kind of like spider web and stuff like that. And it goes out and it starts to harmonize the internet. And the interactions and connections and contacts that she makes, i.e. the website, with other people, then that helps to kind of further the signature, the energetic signature out into the field and creates a ripple effect and stuff. So yeah, that's basically the short and long answer of why I call myself an archetypal website designer. It's basically infusing and synthesizing my two kind of like professional and personal like experiences together in the one. My love for technology and also my knowing of spiritual concepts, spiritual law, and kind of spiritual seeking, and how that can be infused to create harmony and wholeness within an ecosystem. Yeah, so that also informs the slow MoFlow entrepreneur experiment, which is something else that I'm doing as well too. So yeah, I hope that helped to explain why I do the things that I do and why I do it in this particular way and shape and form. If you're interested, then yeah, let's chat for sure. I hope you have a beautiful day. Ciao.